Hi everyone, Adam here, First Step Men's Therapy. Thank you very much for watching my video. If you like what you see and you want to see more content, please like and subscribe to my channel. So what I thought I'd get started on today is a question that I get asked quite often when men come to therapy for the first time, and that is, am I a sex addict? And so, there are maybe some of these ideas that you might have in your mind of what an addict looks like. And sometimes the behavior might not necessarily seem problematic until the consequences and some of the challenges show up in one's life. And so I thought I'd kind of bring this back to a conversation about what sort of criteria one looks for as sort of a first baseline of understanding sex addiction a bit more. It's important to notice first that sex addiction is not listed in the diagnostic manual for psychiatrists and psychologists. So there's no definitive diagnosis for someone who has sex addiction. If you go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, they might be able to say that you have maybe some sort of sexual dysfunction in terms of maybe physical or mental challenges with sex, but they wouldn't be able to say that you necessarily have a sex addiction, and because it's not something that one can diagnose at the moment. The World Health Organization has a sort of a list of disorders, and within that there is a compulsive sexual behavior that's listed. But in North America, it's generally not recognized as much as it is in other countries. So to sort of keep focused on where we're at here in North America, at least, sex addiction really kind of lays in the hands of the therapist to kind of understand and work with, and sort of keeping the diagnosis out of it. So I'm going to look at a few criteria and I'm going to explain them for kind of what we look for, what I look for when a person first comes to therapy. The first one is, an individual who, will notice that they engage in repetitive sexual activities that have become a central focus of that person's life. And this will be at a point of actually neglecting, their health, personal care, other interests and responsibilities. Perhaps they're just preoccupied and compulsively addicted to sex that they start, missing important family events, or neglecting their health, or skipping work. Maybe their sleep suffers, their eating habits, everything kind of is sort of put on hold for the individual to really kind of amplify their sexual behavior. And like I said, the key word I think is a central focus. It's almost like this is the only thing that this person thinks about on a daily basis. And that's kind of the first criteria. The second one we look at is, this person who has, made numerous attempts to stop their sexually compulsive behavior. They've tried to control it, maybe willpower, maybe some other methods of, trying to maybe focus on another addictive behavior. Maybe it's video games, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's drugs. And they've tried all these different things, and or maybe it's sort of self-help related. Maybe they've read a lot of books, maybe they've started mindfulness meditation, and despite all this stuff that they do, it's still unsuccessful in their attempt to stop this problematic sexual behavior and repetitive sexual behavior. And the third thing is the person generally continues to engage in this repetitive sexual behavior despite the adverse consequences. So maybe their wife or partner has left them. Maybe their kids are no longer talking to them. Maybe they've really severed a lot of friendships in their life. Maybe there's been some financial consequences. Maybe work. Maybe they've lost a job or an important position for them in the community. And so despite these adverse consequences, they still have a difficulty in, sort of refraining from engaging in this sexual behavior. And last but not least, the other criteria we look for is, an individual who engages in this sexual behavior despite not really gaining any satisfaction or pleasure from it anymore. Maybe at the start of the behavior, there was a sense of satisfaction or pleasure or excitement from it, but generally the individual over time loses satisfaction in it, and it actually becomes very painful for them. Yet despite this pain, they're unable to stop. And so those are sort of the 4 criteria we look at. An individual might notice that they have 1 or 2 of those. They might have 3 or 4. And it really just depends on sort of their story and what they come to therapy with. But a therapist, qualified therapist can really examine those 4 criteria and kind of get a sense of where the client is on that sort of list of criteria and explore those themes in more detail. So that's kind of an overview of what a sex addiction looks like for somebody. And there's a lot more sort of underneath that. This is sort of like the general baseline for what we might look for in a first or second session. But it's important to recognize, I think, as well, that individuals sometimes think that maybe they have a fetish or a kink that might be maybe not socially accepted or maybe not as popular in our community. And so what I mean by that, maybe they're, into group sex, or maybe they're into BDSM. And these types of things on their own are not indicative of a sex addiction, unless they kind of meet more of the criteria for a sex addiction. And so it's important to look at maybe this from a moral incongruence lens. Maybe the behavior that they're doing is morally incongruent to what they were kind of raised upon or what society kind of looks at, but might not necessarily fall into the sex addiction category. It really just depends on sort of the individual and their sort of story and what is healthy sex for them. And so we really need to evaluate this through a few sessions of understanding what a client really wants, and where is it problematic, and where is it repetitive even to the point of no satisfaction or adverse consequences to themselves and others, and those efforts to stop that are no longer working. So there's a lot of different angles, but that, I hope, gives you kind of an overview of maybe a starting point for you in your journey of understanding some of the behavior better. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions about topics that you want me to raise, please send me a message in the information below. And every week I'm hoping to bring at least 1 new topic to my YouTube channel and my blog. You can check out my website, www.firststepmenstherapy.com, for more information and resources. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.